Greetings, everyone. It's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to another one of the specials. And tonight I've got Joe with me. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening.
How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Very good. Yeah.
Tonight we're going to tackle our favourite Rush songs. Tough one this was. It's taken a little while for us to get this one together, I can assure you. So we've got our top 10 songs, a few honourable mentions, and a little bit about songs. One or two that I think we've mentioned in our previous show, but we'll go into there. So Joe can go first and I'll go second.
Okay, cool. Right. So I've tried to do a mixture here of trying to cover different areas of Rush, not just kind of all of the classic stuff. Just to go through, cover as much as possible and get a few tracks in there that maybe people wouldn't expect that I quite like. So the first one I'm going to go with, my number 10, is actually from this album here, Counterparts, from 1993, and it is the brilliant Animate. Now, this album was kind of a comeback of sorts for Rush, because although Presto had kind of started them off on the path back to that more guitar-driven sound, that album, Presto and Roll the Bones, still had quite a lot of synthesizer in there, and it was getting a bit tired, I think, by the late 80s and the early 90s. And, this album, Counterparts, they were back to their rock and roll guts. And that opening track, Animate, just sort of immediately makes a statement. The heavy drumming of Neil, and then the guitars are straight in there. Alex is giving it all, and some really aggressive vocals from Geddy. Yeah, I really love this song.
Yeah, it was a good comeback album. It was. I agree with you. When Geddy had his keyboard phase, that's all he was interested in. But now he got the Rickenbacker back. It sounds good. Great choice. I like that track, which you'll find out very shortly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my number 10, I'm going back to 1981, sorry, to the Moving Pictures album, and it's YYZ. From that start, that little tinkly bell, and then Neil just blasts in with his little half beats, and that Rickenbacker bass of Geddy is really booming there. I think this was their last of their sort of, before they started going really synthy. I think this is the last one before Counterparts.
Yeah.
Back to normal. I just love it. It's got some incredible riffs from Alex, great little solos and licks. I think it's even better live.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I mean, the best live version is actually on, I think, the Rock in Rio.
Oh, yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
The sound that was playing anyway. Yeah, so that's my number 10.
Yeah.
Just a brilliant track.
Fantastic choice. Yeah, great choice. Okay, so for my number 9, I remember watching your ranking video actually on Rush and saying you weren't a big fan of this album, but I remember there was one song on it you did really like, and that's the one I'm going to talk about actually. This is from Power Windows, and we're going to talk about the song Marathon. This is a song, I think probably the first Rush song I ever heard actually, and kind of the one that got me hooked on the band. This is a nice balance of rock and synth. The keyboard works really well here, but it doesn't sort of overshadow everything else. It's utilized throughout. I really like the metaphor as well of the song that Neil's come up with, the idea that it's about life being a marathon rather than a sprint. I love Geddy's bass playing throughout is just fantastic, and I think it's a real highlight of the album.
Yeah, it is. It's my favorite track off that album. It is. And when you listen to Neil's words, what I do sometimes, I put them up on Spotify and put on the little karaoke, and I read through. That man was an incredible writer.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I don't know. I'd love to have got into that brain. I mean, unfortunately, what killed him in the end is just this brilliant brain. Great track, and worthy of a number 9. Now, my number 9 is the one is your number 10.
Okay.
I can't really add anything else to what you said about that track. You said it all. It is just they're back, and I will say that little bit in the middle, that 3.5 minutes of Neil's drumming, is just explosive.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
just imagine him. I used to love watching him. He's got all them drums, and he knows exactly. He doesn't have to look. He's like this. He's an incredible drummer. We'll talk
sure.
about that later on. So yeah, that was my number 9, and I can't say much more than what you've already said.
Yeah, totally agree. Great pick. Okay, so number 8 for me. I mean, it was only a little while, I suppose, before this album was going to come up.
Yes.
I'm going to go with my favorite pick from this album, which is, of course, the mighty La Villa Strangiato. One of the most incredible instrumentals. Hemispheres was a really exhausting album for Rush to make. They would later say that, their abilities as musicians were really tested making this. And afterwards, they really felt they were up against their limit. And afterwards, they tried to sort of back down a little bit by going to a music that was a bit more accessible, even no less interesting, of course, with Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures. But La Villa Strangiato just showcases so much incredible technical skill. And this instrumental was actually based on a dream that Alex Lifeson had around the time. It consists of 12 sections. And for the nerds out there, my favorite sections are section 5 and 6, Monsters and The Ghost of the Aragon. This bit where you have an awesome guitar part from Alex in there. This is one of the few Rush songs where Neil actually contributed to writing the music. Generally, how it works was that Alex and Geddy wrote the music and Neil worked on the lyrics. Here he actually worked on the music as well.
Yeah, I mean that was really highlighted in. Have you read the 3 trilogy box by Martin Popoff?
I have, yeah.
That's that bit about Hemisphere. They just seem to, instead of their tracks were getting longer and longer, and they just didn't know where to stop. And I think Hemisphere was where they sat down and went, "We got to stop doing this. We're going to go off even further than what we are now." But yeah, I mean, it is a great song, and we will be talking about that later. Obviously, most of these songs are going to be all over those top 10. Okay, my number 8. We're going way back now. We're going back to 1975. The Carers of Steel album, A Steel Day. I think it's got one of the best opening riffs ever from Alex.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the first time I heard this, I couldn't believe how high Geddy Lee's vocals were. You look at him, he's this skinny little man with long hair, geeky looking, and he hits them, he pitches at that high. You just don't, where does he get that from?
Yeah.
It's just an incredible song. You got them great riffs from Alex again, some sterling drumming from Neil. It was a firm favourite right up until they finished.
Sure.
And again, this is a track, when you hear it live, it is absolutely brilliant live. I mean, I think Exit, after this is on the Exit stage left, where you get the definitive version of Bastille Day. It is heavy and hard. I just love that track.
Yeah, I mean, again, can't argue. Didn't make my top 10, but it's easily the highlight of that album. Fantastic song. Yeah. Okay. So my number 7 is going to be, well, actually, you've already mentioned it. It is YYZ. And another instrumental. But although La Villa, I think, is a more complex piece of music, I think YYZ has to be my top pick for Rush instrumentals because it's just so catchy and it's so enjoyable. This piece was inspired by the identification code of Toronto Airport near Rush's hometown, and they were inspired by the rhythm and the kind of instrumental quality, of the Morse code, which obviously opens the song. Every member of the group just has so many amazing musical moments in this track, and it's remained one of the most enduring songs. And I think, as you said, the Rush in Rio performance is so incredible. The fact that you've actually got a whole audience of people chanting along to an instrumental is pretty incredible.
Yeah, well, that's how special Rush fans are.
Yeah.
We are a unique bunch of supportive. Even when we have our little note, in the 90s, we didn't leave them. We stuck by them, especially people of my age. We didn't. We just,
Yeah.
okay, you're going through this phase, and they came out of it. And yeah, there's not much more you can say about YZ. It's just a brilliant track. Okay, my number 7. I'm going to the debut album. Just called Rush, of course, 1974, and it's the brilliant Working Man.
Yeah.
One of the heaviest tracks they ever did. I mean, a lot of people say that they say they sounded more like Led Zeppelin on that album. And we got to remember the drummer on here was the late John Rutsey, who terrific drummer. Okay, I mean it's such a shame that he had an illness and he couldn't go on tour.
Yeah.
But if we wouldn't have got Neil, so I look at John and go, you started this phenomenon, and you're up there with Neil in my eyes. You are part of the Rush family, and your drumming on Working Man is just terrific.
Yeah,
it's a solid track. It's that heaviness, that Geddy's vocal is brilliant, and it's a song that they still played at that very last gig.
Yeah, absolutely.
And back when Def Leppard started, they did a cover of that. On that,
okay.
On in 1980, they were doing a cover of Working Man. So that's how much influence that song has had on people. I mean, there's a lot of people that love this debut album. I do. I think it's a terrific album, and it should not be poo-pooed.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, I didn't know that about Def Leppard actually, but I mean, as well, reading the Martin Popoff book, it was really interesting to find out just how influential John actually was in that early stage of forming the band. Yeah, definitely deserves some credit. Okay, so for my number 6, then I'm going to go with Xanadu from Farewell to Kings. This is based on the poem Kubla Khan by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. It's an 11-minute epic. It tells a story about the man seeking immortality and attaining it, but ultimately going mad in the process. It was recorded actually about 10 miles from where I live, as was Hemispheres, in Rockfield Studios. And it took one take to record the song in spite of its complexity. They did lots of practicing before the recording sessions, and they just did it like in one go. And there was a huge array of instruments played in this song. I mean, you had just Neil Peart, in addition to his drum kit, he's playing temple blocks, he's playing tubular bells, he's playing the bell tree, he's playing the glockenspiel and the wind chimes. Alex and Neil are both doing, Alex and Geddy are both doing their double neck guitars, the Rickenbacker and the Gibson. And they're both using synthesizers, actually. Alex only on the pedals, but Geddy also, of course, on the keyboards. And yeah, it's just an absolute brilliant song, which just sort of encapsulates what Rush were all about at that period in time.
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot of their recording at that time over here. I think they love. I mean, if you remember in the book, I mean, Neil said that he just loved working, and you can understand why, because it's beautiful countryside around there, and it's so inspirational. Yeah. And it's not the first time that Sam Rule, it's been used. Is it? One of his poems has been turned into music.
Sure.
Yeah. Iron Maiden, Rhyming the Ancient Mariner. It's amazing how many people are inspired by his poetry. Great choice. Yeah. Very good choice. Now, my number 6, we're coming up a bit now to 1980 and the album Permanent Waves and Spirit of Radio. Okay, it's the commercial. But I remember the first time I heard that, I was in hospital and there was a nurse on my ward who knew I liked rock music. So she put a cassette together for me. And the first track that come out on that was this.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, I'd never heard this track. And I said, who's that? That's Rush. I went, what? I says, I'm used to the heavy. She said, no, she said, they've changed a bit. But I've loved that track ever since. I love Neil's glockenspiel or his xylophone, whatever he's. He's just he's not just a great drummer. He's just an amazing percussionist. He was that gentle dinky dinky. And the other thing I like about this, he goes into that reggae section,
Yeah,
and singing about salesmen. Only Neil would come up with lyrics like that.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, it's the only Rush song I can think of ever having heard on the radio appropriately, given its name. But yeah, brilliant. So I think we've seen this one before in our last video. We're talking about the title track, of course, from 2112. So I pretty much said my piece last time on this, but this was the track and album that really put Rush on the musical map, as it were. They achieved what they'd essentially tried and sort of not failed, but not quite been as successful when they tried to do the Fountain of Lamneth with Caress of Steel. Tried to do a 20-minute epic, and it hadn't quite had the same effect, of course, that 2112 would go on to have. But despite the length of this song, it again, like Xanadu, it manages to tell a really compelling story. It transitions really nicely between the different sections of the story. Geddy's voice conveys all the characters really well, and the musicianship, as always, is just fantastic.
Yeah, there's not much we've discussed 2112 at length before, but yeah, it is a great track. I still play it all the time. It is just my favourite long pieces of prog music, as you know. Okay, sure. Then we're up to number 5. My number 5 now, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right.
I've lost track. That's old age creep. Yeah, so I'm going right up into the 21st century now, and to 2007's Snakes and Arrows and Far Cry.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I heard this, it was on Planet Rock. And they were going, I knew the new single was out. And they said, here's the new song from Rush. And you got that, dan, oh, hello.
Yeah.
I think that's a great track. It's got a great vocal from Geddy, and I like the harmonising. Obviously, I think it's Alex that's doing the backing on that.
Yeah,
it's really, really good. It's just an incredible track. And you thought, wow, they are back with style.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't argue that. No, it's a brilliant song. Brilliant song. Yeah, big fan of that album. Okay, so my number 4, we're going to an album we've just talked about, but it's a different song. I'm going to talk about Free Will, which, although Spirit of the Radio tends to get the most attention, this is my favorite of the shorter songs from Permanent Waves. Between Geddy's bass playing and just, sort of singing higher than you could thought anyone could manage, Geddy steals a large part of this song, but Neil's lyrics are brilliant. And, as is his drumming, of course, and Alex's guitar stuff. He said, Alex has said that the guitar work on this was really challenging because, he said it's one of the most ambitious pieces Rush has ever done musically. And it was actually the last time that we would hear Geddy actually use the full range of his vocals, doing that sort of shriek trademark that he did before it kind of gradually, as the albums went on, sort of moving pictures onwards, his voice kind of lowered in tone as they went on into the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, I think Geddy was sensible enough that he could not compete doing that high shrieking for the rest of his singing career.
Yeah.
Just looking after his voice, and very sensible, because John Bon Jovi didn't look after his voice. And, when Rush finished, Geddy was still singing them early songs as good as he did in the day. And that's because he looked after his voice. Yeah, great track. Another firm favourite live, was in their set for many a year. I think it's on about 3 live albums I've got. Terrific track. Now, my number 4, you've already spoken about it, and I can't add much to it. We're going to Farewell to Kings, 1977, and Xanadu. again, it's just a brilliant, brilliant track. They've thrown everything except the kitchen sink on that. It's just
Yeah.
an incredible track. And if you listen to it on the headphones, you can pick out bits. You go, ooh. See, that's an album I'd love that someone to go and remix it and do it in 5.1.
Yeah.
Because I think you would even hear more. Because people say, well, it doesn't work. 5.1 does work, which you will see when I do my Marillion box sets. You hear things that you think, I didn't hear that before. So, yeah, there's not much more you can say about that song. It's just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Right, okay, well, we just talked about this album a second ago, and here it is again. Notice I said I was talking about my favourite short song on Permanent Waves before. Well, this is now my favourite long song of them all, as far as Rush songs are concerned. It is, of course, the brilliant Natural Science. Now, I mean, I love this. This was recorded at Le Studio in Quebec, and Alex Lifeson explained that once they had the guitar track down, they positioned a speaker cabinet outside the studio and recorded the sort of natural echo from the mountains in combination with the sound of the splashing water that was around them and Geddy's voice over that. And I just love the whole soundscape of this song. You know how it builds up, how it kind of starts the same way it ends. The different sections of it. Again, the idea behind the song, the message that Neil is trying to convey, I think is really clever. And yeah, it's just a track I never get fed up of hearing.
No, apparently, I mean, if I remember right, when they recorded that, there was about 7 foot of snow. So apparently, Geddy said, if you remember in the book, that Geddy said it even added more atmosphere with the snow being there.
Uh-huh.
It did give it that natural feel. I mean, I think it was a genius bit of recording. Stick it outside and get the natural sounds and what's going on. Really adds. Sure. It really does add atmosphere to that track, I think.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay, my number 3. We're going to 1982 now, and the Signals album, and it's the brilliant Subdivisions. It's probably the best keyboard intro to any of Rush's songs, and I think it's got some of the most intricate, brilliant drumming from Neil. Now, I don't know if you've seen the clip on YouTube where he's doing this on stage. I don't know where it is, but they're just focused on Neil's drum kit. Especially that intro at the beginning where he goes dun dun. Watching that, I'm just amazed how he plays. I've seen people do drum covers of that. They can't do it. There's only one man that can drum like that. That's Neil.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the most intricate drum intro that he ever come up with, I think. The whole song's brilliant. Obviously, I mean, the song's actually about the suburb of where they were living, about the schools and the community. And again, Neil wrote a wonderful lyric about living in that part of Toronto, because that is dedicated to the people of Toronto. It's just that hustle and bustle, and Geddy sings that like in a hustle and bustle and gentleness, everything going on in the thing. It's a superb song and superbly put together.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful song. Okay, so my second place. Now, there's we all love the Tom Sawyer, the Limelights, Red Butt Cheddar, YYZ, but there's one particular song on here that has always been very special to me, and it is the fantastic Witch Hunt. And this song, I love, again, the message of the lyrics that Neil's come up with. It was based on the Salem witch trials, and he's made this incredible soundscape. It's actually part of the Fear trilogy. he put a lot of songs together and called them the Fear Trilogy. It's actually all mixed up because they're in reverse order. Because you've got The Enemy Within from Grace Under Pressure as part one, you've got The Weapon from Signals as part two, and then Witch Hunt as part three. And then you've also got, actually, even though it's a trilogy, you've got a fourth part with Freeze from Vapor Trails. But this song is all about how fear is used to control people. I love the soundscape they built up with Neil. Kind of, you can hear him in the background shouting, and you've got the sort of the way that the rhythm of the song starts out. It kind of sounds like the Vigilantes marching, and it goes into that incredible guitar riff that Alex Lifeson does. And Geddy's voice, it's just so full of venom, the way he's singing the words. It's just a really proggy, dark song.
Yeah, I've always liked how Geddy, considering he didn't write these lyrics, after he reads them through and then he interprets Neil's work. Is absolutely brilliant. I always think Moving Picture Side 2 is the better of the sides.
Yeah,
because it's got the camera off, and that's brilliant as well. And I do like. I think it's a great track, absolutely brilliant track. Okay, my number two. I think we've mentioned it again. It's obviously 1976, 2112.
Yeah.
I had it on the other day just to listen to it for this, and I thought, yeah, there's not much else I can say about it. That it's just absolutely amazing.
Sure.
And it still blows me away.
Yeah, it's very deserving of that. Yeah.
And I've been listening to that now for 40 years or more. And I still don't get bored with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can't argue with that logic.
No.
It's just an amazing song. Okay. So, I mean, I'd probably say this is not just my favorite Rush song, it's probably my favorite song of all time. And we are talking about a song you've just spoken about, of course, Subdivisions from Signals. I enjoy Rush's synth era quite a lot, but I think they never got better than this first song, which kind of signaled the beginning of it. The keyboards kind of immediately set this dark, moody tone. Interspersed with, as you said earlier, Neil's fantastic drumming, and this really great solo later on as well from Alex. To me, it's just a perfect song. The lyrics are a masterpiece. It combines, rock instruments and electronic instruments in a really pleasing way. There's a reason why it practically became a given that they would play it at every show they did. It is just an absolutely fantastic song.
Yeah, it opened the sets for a few years as well, didn't it? So, it's a song that has got life in it even today. So iconic. It's just an iconic sound. So my number one, you've already mentioned it. It's from my favourite album, remember, which is Hemispheres, 1988, and it's La Villa Strang. I can never pronounce it. Which is actually an exercise in self-indulgence. Yeah. There's just so many things about it. I mean, it opens up with that lovely Spanish guitar. And you've mentioned all the things I was going to say about it. It's just really good. And it's even got some jazz drumming in it. That jazzy bit of drum that Neil does. Just prove what a great drummer he was. What are the little notes I put? No, there's not. I've just gone through my notes and everything you've said. It's on here. I can't add to that.
Great minds think alike, I guess.
Yes, it's been an interesting. We all like the same sort of songs, and it shows up with, even if our age difference, there is a solid bit of Rush that the thing, which is great. And I think that's the same with. I don't think about no matter how old you are, and if you're a fan, you're always going. These are always going to appear. So I know you've got a few more honourable mentions.
Yeah, I've got a few. So I mean, it was always between Cygnus X1 and Xanadu, for which Farewell to King of Song made it in. It was just happened to be Xanadu, but that's of course a great track. Jacob's Ladder with that fantastic guitar solo from Alex Lifeson from Permanent Waves, of course. Mystic Rhythms from Power Windows. I love Neil's drumming on that. It's really interesting. The title track from Test for Echo and the song Driven from that album as well, I really love. The Anarchist and The Garden from Clockwork Angels. I think, The Garden is probably the most perfect song you could ever end Rush's career on. It's just fabulous in every way. Dreamline from Roll the Bones, I think, is a really great song. And also Distant Early Warning was another honorable mention from Grace Under Pressure.
Yeah, that's one of mine. That's one of mine. Early Warning. I think it's the best track off Grace Under Pressure.
Yeah,
I've got it on I don't know if it's an official album now, but when I got it, it was a bootleg, the Grace Under Pressure tour, and that was on it. That's really good. Mine are very simple. Tom Sawyer. Okay, it's that opening is just brilliant. Iconic song. I've gone from Vapor Trails, One Little Victory. I just love Neil's drumming on that. I mean, this was really a poignant album. It's the one after Neil's tragic circumstances when he lost his family and he went off on his bike ride, which if anyone hasn't read, there's Neil's book on his journey. Read, put it on your Christmas list. It is a fantastic book.
Definitely,
it's one of them books that you cannot put down. I mean, Martin Pot in the trilogy, he covers that well in that as well. It's not as long, obviously, but there's lots of little bits, and he comes back, and you stick on One Little Victory, and you think Neil's back. That's what I thought about the whole of Vapor Trails. Neil's back.
Yeah.
And my last one is another song off Clockwork Angels 2012, the very last album, The Anarchist.
Yeah, great song.
It's a little bit more unusual. I thought it was a very unusual track. I think the drumming from Neil is exceptional. I like some of the Geddy's little bass riffs on it are good. And again, Alex is, when you listen to that album, it is three friends, not three musicians, three friends, knowing that this is it.
Yeah.
I'm sure Neil knew his fate before they released it, and they just went out with a kick-ass album.
Yeah, I mean, they opened R40 with The Anarchist. It's just such a great banging tune,
Well, it's been fun, and this is why I like doing stuff with Joe here, because we're from two ends of generations, but we love the same music. It's great. Well, I'm going to get, if this is up today, it'll be very lightly because it's only 8:45. This doesn't take long. I'll be back in the morning with Gordon Giltrap. Do you like any of Gordon's stuff?
I can't say I'm not familiar, to be honest.
You will know one track.
Okay.
Yeah. But Gordon Giltrap, people that like him are Richie Blackmore, Steve Rothery.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a great guitarist. There's something for you to go and have a dive into.
Sure.
It's actually Mastermind Dave's request, that is. So that's all for tomorrow. Once again, Joe, pleasure working with you again. And I'm
thank you.
Doing something in 2023. I know we are going to do something with Mr. McCook on Mike Oldfield. We still haven't worked out how we're doing it, but that'll happen in 2023. So bye for now.
Cheers. Yeah.